Life in a Tank by Richard C. Haigh, M.C. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Chapter 1. The Meaning of the Tank Corps. Tanks. To the uninitiated, as were we in those days, when we returned to the Somme too late to see the tanks make their first dramatic entrance, the name conjures up a picture of an iron monster, breathing fire and exhaling bullets and shells, hurling itself against the enemy, unassailable by man and impervious to the most deadly engines of war, sublime indeed in its expression of indomitable power and resolution. This picture was one of the two factors which attracted us toward the Heavy Branch Machine Gun Corps, as the Tank Corps was known in the first year of its being. On the Somme we had seen a derelict tank, wrecked, despoiled of her guns, and forsaken in no man's land. We had swarmed around and over her, wild with curiosity, much as the Lilliputians must have swarmed around the prostrate Gulliver. Our imagination was fired. The second factor was, frankly, that we were tired of going over the top as infantrymen. The first time that a man goes into an attack, he as a rule enjoys it. He has no conception of its horrors. No, not horrors, for war possesses no horrors, but rather he has no knowledge of the sudden realization of the sweetness of life that comes to a man when he is up against it. The first time, it is a splendid, ennobling novelty, and as for the show itself in actual practice, it is more like a dream which only clarifies several days later after it is all over. But to do the same thing a second and third and fourth time is to bring a man face to face with death in his fullest and most realistic uncertainty. In soldier jargon, he gets most awful wind up. It is 5 minutes before 0 hour. All preparations are complete. You are waiting for the signal to hop over the parapet. Very probably the Boche knows that you are coming and is already skimming the sandbags with his machine guns and knocking little pieces of earth and stone into your face. Extraordinary how maddening is the sting of these little harmless pebbles and bits of dirt. The bullets ricochet away with a peculiar singing hiss, or crack overhead when they go too high. The shells which burst on the other side of the parapet shake the ground with a dull thud and crash. There are 2 minutes to wait before going over. Then is the time when a man feels a sinking sensation in his stomach, when his hands tremble ever so slightly, and when he offers up a pathetic little prayer to God that if he's a bit of a sportsman he may be spared from death, should his getting through not violate the divine and fatalistic plans. He has that unpleasant lack of knowledge of what comes beyond, for after all, with the most intense belief in the world, it is hard to reconcile the comforting feeling of what one knows with that terrible dread of the unknown. The man has no great and glorious ideas that nothing matters because he is ready to die for his country. He is, of course, ready to die for her, but he does not think about it. He lights a cigarette and tries to be nonchalant, for he knows that his men are watching him, and it is his duty to keep up a front for their sake. Probably at the same time they are keeping up a front for him. Then the sergeant major comes along, cool and smiling, as if he were out for a stroll at home. Suddenly he is an immense comfort. One forgets that sinking feeling in the stomach and thinks how easy and jolly he is. What a splendid fellow. Immediately one begins unconsciously to imitate him. Then another thinks the same thing about one and begins to imitate too. So it passes on down the line, but there is nothing heroic or exalting in going over the top. This then was our possible second reason for preferring to attack inside bulletproof steel. Not that death is less likely in a tank, but there seems to be a more sporting chance with a shell than with a bullet. The enemy infantryman looks along his sight, and he has you for a certainty. But the gunner cannot be so accurate, and 20 yards may mean a world of difference. Above all, the new monster had our imaginations in thrall. Here were novelty and wonderful developments. In the end of 1916, therefore, a number of officers and men received their orders to join the HBMGC, and proceeded sorrowfully and joyfully away from the trenches. Sorrowfully because it is a poor thing to leave your men and your friends in danger and get out of it yourself into something new and fresh. Joyfully because one is, after all, but human. About 30 miles behind the line, some villages were set aside for the housing and training of the new units. Each unit had a nucleus of men who had already served in tanks, with the new arrivals spread around to make up the strength. The new arrivals came from all branches of the service: infantry, sappers, gunners, cavalry, and the Army Service Corps. Each man was very proud of his own branch, and a wonderfully healthy rivalry and affection sprang up between them.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?